What's up, guys? For today's video, we're prepping the interior of the boat for Gluvit epoxy and also interior painting. Now, if you're ever looking for a product to seal leaky rivets, Gluvit is your go-to product. The best thing about Gluvit, and the reason why I recommend it so much for sealing up leaking rivets, is that it's a very thin epoxy. So when you apply it to your rivets, it'll actually take a couple hours to fully set up. And in that time, it's gonna seep down into the rivet connections in the hull and really plug up any potential leaks. Now, I definitely recommend tightening down your rivets first. That's a very easy, cheap, and free way to fix any leaking rivets. But for example, rivets you can't get to, or just a little extra added protection to make sure your boat stays waterproofed, this very thin epoxy will work very well for that. I'll throw a link in the description if you guys want to check it out. You can get it right off Amazon. It's pretty readily available. So with that being said, I'm going to be using a variety of tools to prep the boat. I really like the wire wheels for getting in around the rivets. I've already started working on this one here. It really cleans up the connection really well, so when you apply the epoxy, it gives a really good surface to grip to. All right, so let's get started. As we go along, I'll try to give you guys some helpful tips and show you what I'm working on, and then we'll go from there. So here's something else I just discovered right here on the weld. There's a little bit of crack here. On the underside of the boat, there is like sealant smeared all down this side, and I bet you it's because of this right here. So this is gonna be something that's gonna seal up really well with that Gluvit. See, I'm just cleaning up around all the rivets. That way the epoxy has something really nice to grab onto. Point, I have all the rivets taken care of, most of all the welded seams. I went along each of the ribs, that way any epoxy that flows over the side has a good place to grip to. I'm really happy to see that throughout the entire boat, I really only found two pretty bad spots of corrosion. The first one is right here. As you can see, I ground it out really well with the wire wheel. It's pretty deeply pitted right here. This is where the wood was sitting that was in here previously. I don't know if it was pressure treated wood. It could have been. That tends to be what causes that kind of deep pitting. But overall, it's not too bad. I don't need to do any specific repairs to it. I'm just gonna clean it out real well and make sure it gets coated with epoxy, and then that will seal it up to prevent any further corrosion from happening there. The only other spot I saw some corrosion was in the back here, which I had already previously seen. This isn't as deep. This is mainly surface corrosion right here. Again, this is where a lot of the water and wood sat. So you really got to make sure you're using the correct kind of wood, or this corrosion will eat your boat alive. So right now my plan is to give a rough sand to all of the interior surfaces. Then I'm going to be pulling the boat out of the garage, spraying it down with aluminum brightener to really bring back all the exposed aluminum, make sure there's no oxidation on top. Then when we apply the Gluvit epoxy, it's going to have a really good surface to grip to. I'm going to jump right into it and get started on sanding. Once this is all sanded up, we'll pull it out of the garage and see how it looks. All right, so this is what all the prep has been building for. Now on this boat, we already did our leak test, tightened up the loose rivets using an air hammer, and we applied epoxy to the rivets from the underneath the boat. I like to do the inside of the boat because gravity will pull the epoxy down into the space between the ribs and the rivets, and it's a flexible epoxy, so it's not going to get brittle and crack over time. this goes a long way. One container is way overkill for a 14-foot boat. So I'm only gonna mix up a very small amount, and then I'm gonna be using a paintbrush to apply it to the individual rivets. And then I'm also gonna let some flow down the seams of the boat there. Along the weld. With those two applications of epoxy, I don't think this boat is gonna leak again in its lifetime. So the container does not come with the mixing ratio by weight, only by volume. So what I'm gonna do is use the amounts that come in each container. So this is 120 grams and this is 815 grams. So this is the already appropriate mix ratio if you were to just combine these together. I'm only gonna be using a portion of that. So what I have here is what's called a ratio calculator. I put in the 815 to 120 as my ratio. So now when I fill this container up with resin, I'm gonna put that in the resin spot. And then when I hit calculate, it's gonna tell me how many grams of catalyst I need to add for the correct ratio. Okay, I think that's a pretty good amount. So we're sitting at 232 grams. Let's put that into the 232. So after putting that into the formula here, we know we need about 34 grams of catalyst. So now when we add 34 grams of catalyst, we should have the exact mix ratio we're looking for. All right, here we go. So we're looking for 34 grams. And that does look about right. It looks about a 5-to-1 ratio. So now we can go ahead and mix this up, get it activated, and apply it to the boat. All right, now as you can see, it is still super loose in there. A couple spots that I want to focus on. Obviously, all the rivet heads are going to get it right off the bat. And I'm also trying to put it on the seam so it can seep down on the seam too. This area right here I want to pay particular attention to because there was definitely some type of impact over there. Right here, we've got a bunch of corrosion, so I wanted to fill that in just a little bit. And then I'm just going to work down each rivet, put a little bit on it. I want it to pull up because I want it to seep down. We don't need to apply this thin at all. And now I'm hoping with the slope of the boat, it's all just gonna flow in the direction that it needs to. What I want to see is it come flow out here, and then I'll know it got that whole seam under the rib. Yeah, there it is. Perfect. I'm gonna give that a little bit there, so I'll help that just keep flowing on down. So what I'm gonna do is run down this side of the boat, swing around to the other side of the boat, and then we'll take a look when we're done. I was so close to having the perfect amount. I probably need about 40 grams more to finish it up. I probably got like maybe 5 rivets left, and then I wanted to put a little bit more on the seam. Man, that was so close. All right, so the epoxy has now been applied to all of the rivets and seams. I'm really happy with the way it flowed. In total, I probably used 30% of the can. So like I said, if you were looking to just do your interior rivet sealing, 30% will get you there. All right, now we're gonna let this dry overnight and we'll check it out tomorrow. All right, well, it's been a few days and the Gluvit has had time to cure. I came out here a couple times after applying it and the epoxy did exactly what I wanted it to do. I had applied it really heavy on the top of the boat here, and over time, it seeped its way down the seam, and you can see it got all the way to the bottom down here where this is, I guess, just the lowest point of the front of the boat. But right here is a really good way to see how it just puddled up and completely sealed up this entire seam. So I'm really happy to see that. All the rivets basically behaved the same way. It really formed a good seal. Same thing on the other side. Oh, and also I used it along the back of the seam here. Again, I didn't really have any leak issues here, but this is just future-proofing it just in case for the future. As I said, it really did not take much. This is a 1437 boat, and I maybe used about 1/3 of the container that it came with. I really like the product. It lasts a while. It really takes a long time to cure on purpose and seals it up really well. At this point, I'm ready to move on to the next part of the build. In the next video, I'm going to be painting the interior of the boat. I already started testing out some of the spray paint that I wanted to use. I'm using the same gray that I rolled onto the outside, but I wanted to try spraying it on the inside. I find that spray paint works so much easier on the inside of the boat with all of the little nooks and crannies. I wanted to test it out a little bit, so I sprayed out the inside of the bench seat here, and it looks really, really good. I think that once the entire boat is the same color, it's really gonna pull the whole design together. Well, if you guys found this video helpful, don't forget to let me know by hitting that like button. If you want to follow along with this John boat build and see all the cool stuff I got in store, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.